to another episode of Soft Signal. My name is Varun and I'm joined by Aditya.
Welcome to yet another episode.
It's coming up to our 1 year. We just realized, and we were just speaking in the lead up to this. April 8th last year was the first ever episode. So it's 1 year anniversary for us almost. But today we're going to focus on an 11-year anniversary of a very special day. I think I'm not exaggerating when I say probably the most special day for both of us as cricket fans, at least, or one of them at least, which is the 2011 World Cup win by India, the ODI World Cup win after 28 years at the time, and we haven't won a World Cup since. So momentous day.
Yeah, it was quite an amazing day. I mean, winning a World Cup doesn't happen every time, and so yeah, it's amazing to think that it's already been 11 years. I mean, it doesn't feel like it. Um, and it was quite a fun World Cup as well, wasn't it? I mean, exciting matches. There was a lot of craze around that World Cup, a lot of media hype because it was happening in India, and it was also Sachin's last World Cup. So there was a lot of a lot of stuff brewing before that World Cup, which kind of made it all the more special. Um, and it was perfect. It was a perfect kind of climax with India winning that World Cup and Sachin also winning a World Cup during the course of his career.
Yeah, and I think at least I was. Were you also in India at that time? Because I was still in India at that time, and then just being around also was just a amazing feeling.
Yeah,
Being around it.
unfortunately, I was not in India that time. I was in Dubai at the time, but that's probably the closest to India you can get outside India. Maybe UK is a bit kind of can run it a bit close, but anyways, I mean, the thing is that we were all students back then, right? So we just kind of got more involved into the entire atmosphere of the World Cup and all the craze surrounding it because you just had more time on hand as well. So uh, yeah, I mean, good memories, happy memories, of course, and an amazing World Cup.
Yeah, let's add some context because I mean, at least now we're talking very much from our own lens as 30, early 30s Indian guys. Growing up, we had one major heartbreak. So 2003 was like the World Cup where we played so well, actually, India. And I don't know if it's innocence or what, but I was convinced that we were going to somehow win the final as well. And then it was just the worst, probably one of the worst matches India has played, and probably one of the best innings ever by Ricky Ponting in the World Cup final. It's got 359 for two, which was in 2003. That was like 559 in today's world, in today's day and age, and we didn't even come close. Lost by 100 runs, and yeah, there was a lot of. And then we had the 2007 World Cup where I thought, okay, maybe this will be final World Cup for Dravid, Ganguly, Sachin, and then they'll win. And then we didn't even make it past the first round. So coming to 2011, this was like almost like, what was your mindset going ahead? Did you think we had a chance, or were you daring to believe?
Well, yeah, I was daring to believe. Of course, we had a good team. I mean, there was no doubt about it. Plus, we were playing at home. Having said that, until 2011, no home team had actually won the World Cup. So that was there. But just given the quality of the team we had and the fact that we were playing at home, made it sort of. I wouldn't say it made us outright favorites, but it meant that we had a chance right through. But you're right. I mean, the 2007 World Cup was a complete disappointment. Uh, Somehow, right? You just never felt that India would not qualify through the round robin, through the group stages. You just don't consider that, right? And that's exactly what happened in 2007. So to then come to the next World Cup and win it made it even greater. And also to win it in quite comprehensive fashion. And I say that because we lost just one match in that World Cup against South Africa. I think we didn't lose anything else. Um, Even the close matches, I think the Indian team showed that they could, overcome pressure situations and tough situations as well. So I think overall the performance and the way we kind of went through that World Cup was really satisfying in hindsight.
Yeah, and it was redemption for a lot of the 2003 guys also, because it that the World Cup had from 2003 and 11, the it had Sehwag, Yuvraj, Harbhajan, Zaire, Nehra was also there, and then of course
Yeah.
Sachin. But I think the only guy who like the major, like there was no Ganguly, Dravid, and Kef, but everyone else was. It was the 2003 guys had their redemption in 2011, so it was a nice. And like you would think that it was Sachin's last World Cup. Yes, it was, but a lot of the guys like Harbhajan and Sehwag and they didn't even have. They also faded away slowly after that World Cup. They didn't have like none of them played the 2015 World Cup, for example. So that was kind of a farewell for all of them as well. We just think about Sachin because he was playing for so much longer, but it was just a farewell for that whole 2003 generation as well.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. I mean, I don't think that team played a match together again, right? The 11 that played that World Cup final, they didn't play together ever again after that. So yes, indeed, it was a sort of change of guard that happened, and it of course had a lot to do with the fact that right after that World Cup, India lost some away series in Australia and England, but that's a separate topic. We stick to the World Cup. But yeah, I mean, you're right. It was just one of those occasions where I think the team was at its peak. You had Sachin and Sehwag in blistering form opening the innings. You had Gambhir at three, who was in really good form, and honestly, he plays a lot of crucial innings, which for some reason, we tend to forget. I don't know why, but it just so happens. And then at number four, we had Yuvraj, who
No, it
was
was Kohli
amazing
at
in that
four.
in that tournament, right? So Yuvraj was like the all rounder of the tournament. He picked up wickets at crucial occasions. He scored runs in crucial matches. I mean, I remember that just going into the World Cup, he was not in very good form. But then during the World Cup, he just lifted his game. In the end, of course, it came out that he was battling through cancer during that World Cup. So I mean, commendable effort from him. I still think India has not found that number four. Ever since Yuvraj retired. I mean, he was really a game changer. He was a match winner on his own, and he proved that during that World Cup. And then, of course, going down the order as well, Raina, Dhoni, Yusuf Pathan,
You forgotten the main man.
Kohli, Mr.
Yes, I was
Virat
just gonna
Kohli.
say.
Of course, Kohli was not the force that
Yeah, yeah.
he is today during that World Cup. Um, if I remember well, he didn't play. Oh, no, he did play all the matches. I think
Yeah, yeah.
during that World Cup. But of course, he was not the kind of threat that he became after that. But of course, he was one of the young stars, the stars in the making at that time. And then of course the bowlers. Harbhajan was good. We had Munaf Patel. We had Munaf Patel, who honestly was not the best of bowlers, but okay, he did his job in that
It was
in that World
effective. Yeah.
Cup. Yeah. There was Srishant, right? There was Srishant, the ever mercurial Srishant. And then, of course, there was Zahir Khan, who again bowled brilliantly in that World Cup. I think he was the highest wicket taker in that World Cup with Shahid Afridi. But he was amazing. I mean, he was clearly the captain of the bowling group, and I think Zahir was also one of the main reasons why India was able to win that World Cup. Without him, they would not have.
Yeah, 100%. And you had Nehra also, of course. Cannot forget Nehra. And the major who didn't play a match, I think, he played one match. And Mr. Piyush Chawla also, who managed to sneak his way in again. Uh, I was reading a stat, just digressing a bit. There's only, oh, I think Piyush Chawla, was he in the 2007 T20 World Cup also? I think so, right?
Yeah, he was. He
Because there
was.
was something about the only players who have won a T20 World Cup, ODI World Cup, and a IPL. And Piyush Chawla is one of the 10 or 12 players who have done that. But
Yeah.
yeah, but yeah, I just wanted to. I know you said they lost only one match, and that's true. But like through the group stages, we were a bit shaky. Like I know we started off with a great win against Bangladesh. That tied game against England, where we actually could have lost that. We came back in the end. Then we had those wins against those Ireland and Netherlands, and then lost to South Africa, and kind of won against West Indies, but that West Indies team again collapsed. So at the end of the group stage, I think we really peaked in the knockouts because that quarterfinal against Australia, like if you remember that match, Ponting scored another 100, very different from his 100 8 years before. But still, 260 chasing against Australia, you could never count them out. But it was a masterful chase, especially that partnership by Yuvraj and Raina at the end after we had collapsed that middle order. Like we went from something like 140 for two to 160, 170 for five. And I thought, oh, like Raina was the last batsman. And I thought, now what's going to happen, right? That was a pretty tense match.
Yeah. So before I comment on that, I just want to comment on Piyush Chawla. Okay. So
Yes.
he actually got into the squad at the expense of Rohit Sharma, if you recall.
I
Right?
mean,
He was the 15th member of the 15-member squad, and it was a toss-up between him and Rohit Sharma, and Piyush Chawla got the nod. Then, in that match that you mentioned, which India tied against England, it was Piyush Chawla that bowled the second last over and conceded two sixes. I think it was Bresnan that hit him for two sixes over cow corner, as they call it. So yeah, Piyush Chawla. I don't know. He just seems to find his way into
need
World Cup
his luck in
squad.
life. We all need his luck in
Yeah,
life.
yeah. So anyway, so that's Piyush Chawla for you. And coming to the matches that you were talking about, yeah, I mean that game against Australia was amazing. I think you're right. I remember Dhoni got out for a duck as well, right?
Or six or
Slashed
seven
the
or
ball
something. Yeah.
or something. I mean, yeah, it was close to zero or something. He slashed a really well timed cut shot of Bretley straight to backward point, and then everyone was like, "Oh my God, what's going to happen next?"
Yeah.
And actually, I think Raina had not played a game before that match, right? Yusuf Pathan was batting at number 7 and he didn't perform that well. So they dropped Pathan and brought Raina in for that game. And yeah, with Yuvraj, his partnership was crucial, and it took us over the line because let's not forget Australia was good that time. I mean, they are probably not as they were probably not even in 2015 the team was good, but probably the 2011 World Cup still had those players, certain players who were like the mainstays of Australia's dominance in international cricket up until then. So people like Brett Lee, Ponting, you know,
Clark, Hussey, Watson, all of
Clark,
those guys.
exactly, Watson, all these guys. I mean, they were seriously good players. So for India to beat them in the knockout, right? So there was the added pressure of the quarterfinals there. For India to beat them, I think it probably gave them a lot of confidence as well. That, okay, guys, look, we've just beaten Australia. We are probably now going to beat whoever else comes in our way and lift this trophy.
Yeah, and it was insane that match because I also remember Gambhir got run out, and had he almost got run out twice before that. He and Yuvraj, I don't know how they were running, and then
Yes.
finally he did get run out, and I thought, oh my god, this is just this. How are we gonna lose like this? Like, are we just trying to find a way to lose? But we made it, and since you mentioned Raina, I think Raina's role was severely underrated in this World Cup because not only the quarterfinal but the semi-final, the next match against Pakistan, which was such a huge game. Forget about the World Cup semi-final, but against Pakistan, who had played really well that tournament.
Yeah.
India were in trouble there, and he got us up to 260, which was again not a great score. But
Mm.
just to get us there, I think Raina at the end was um, just incredible. We talk about Sachin's innings. Yes, he made 85, but it was a very scratchy innings. He was dropped 4 or 5 times, LBW, and there was DRS overturned and all of that. But yeah, I think Raina just the role in the quarter and semi really needs to be reevaluated.
Yeah, I mean, it was an amazing innings. You're right. I think that pitch in Mohali was sort of two paced, right? It started off by being really good, and Sehwag and Sachin got off to a flyer, and
Yeah.
then um, after some time, the pitch started getting sticky and slow. So in the end, when Raina actually lifted the score to 260, he kind of took the score to a level which kind of allowed India to at least compete. It was not a match-winning score, like you said. 260 in those days in 2011 was still very, very chaseable. I mean, teams used to make that quite easily. Um, but yeah, I mean, I remember in that match, so Wahab Riaz got a fifer, Yuvraj got for a duck,
First
um,
ball, like
first ball duck, and the batting order kind of collapsed after a good start from Sachin and Sehwag. So you're right, Raina was again shepherding the tail like he's done many times in his career, by the way. And I think he carried us to a good score. And then I think bowlers did well with a little bit of help from Misbah. Um, I think uh, I think all in all the bowlers did a good job to defend 260 um, against a good Pakistan team again in conditions that were not alien to them, right? So I mean, if you're playing in India, Pakistan is as dangerous. I mean, they can play spinners well. They've got bowlers for those conditions. They had a good fast bowling attack. Omar Gul was a good bowler. Wahab Riaz was doing well. Shahid Afridi, Mohammad Hafiz. I mean, these guys
Osman,
were good bowlers, and even their batting was good. I mean, those were the days when the Akmal brothers were quite dangerous. You had Misbah, Shahid Afridi, Mohammad
and
Hafiz.
Razak. Yeah,
Exactly. So these guys were good, and again the pressure of the semi-finals, right? So that's always at the back of your mind when you're playing. So again, it was a fantastic win. I think even the prime ministers of both the countries at the time were watching in the stadium. So I mean, these kind of things subconsciously add pressure on the players, and therefore it makes that win all the more special.
it's a typical South Asian subcontinent mentality of making things bigger than they actually are when it's just a
Yeah.
game of cricket, and then you call the prime ministers, make it a diplomatic event, and all sorts of things. But yeah, and I think Munaf Patel even Pakistan started well as well, and then there was that middle order collapse. But they batted deep. Afridi was batting at 8, I think.
Mm.
So it was really commendable to defend that 260. Let's move on to the final, the big one where we played Sri Lanka, who had played amazingly. Actually, India and Sri Lanka were the joint favorites going into the tournament, and there was a very different Sri Lanka team to what we see today. Um, Packed with stars. You had Dilshan, and then who was the highest run getter of the tournament? Of course, Sangakkara and Jayawardene. And then they had in their bowling they had Muralitharan was playing his last ODI, and of course Malinga. You cannot just and then throughout the team they had really gun players. And yeah, what did you getting to the final? What were your expectations? Trying to set the scene for that day.
But to be honest with you, I always thought Sri Lanka was going to win that World Cup. I mean, I knew that India would really get close. But I remember speaking to some friends at the time, and I was like, Sri Lanka is going to win this World Cup. And they came to the finals against India, and I was like, okay, should India win this or should Sri Lanka? I mean, the let's say the cricket expert in me who had predicted Sri Lanka to win the World Cup thought that, of course, I mean, it'd be so cool. You predicted this,
So
but then the
the
Indian
predictions are being it's not just a this year thing that
exactly,
has been going on
exactly.
since
Uh,
2011. Yeah.
so I thought that would be cool, but then of course the Indian fan in me was like, no, I mean, of course India should win. So yeah, I mean, a lot of expectations going into that final. I thought Sri Lanka would, just from the unbiased sort of logical point of view, it seemed Sri Lanka was the better team on paper, and they were really good in that tournament. And as you said, they really had good players. Not that India didn't, but somehow Sri Lanka was just the better team overall at that time. I felt. But then again, India was riding a wave of support. We were playing in India, right? The emotions were high. I mean, it was Sachin's. It was supposed to be Sachin's final World Cup, which it was. The finals were in at the Wankhede. So I mean, the scene could not have been more in favor, let's say, of India. And then again, the way India actually started, Zahir started so well. I remember the first 6 overs, and he was bowling brilliantly. A far cry from what happened in 2003, right? So Zahir was bowling brilliantly. The fielding was absolutely amazing. I mean, Yuvraj was diving all over the point and cover region. Raina, the crowd was behind them. It was amazing. And yeah, I mean, it was an amazing game. I mean, I let you chime in, but it was just the atmosphere was so great at that time.
Yeah, I agree. It was all set for like a fairy tale finish, which ultimately happened, but didn't look like it was going to happen for large parts of that game because even though we started well with the ball and restricted them for the first 30, 35 overs, they did get away in the last 10, 15 overs, especially Mahela Jayawardene played one of the finest innings in a World Cup final. And up until that point, no no player had ended up on the losing side after getting 100 in a World Cup final. So all the odds were against India. 274, not the highest score, but World Cup final chasing under pressure is not easy to get as well. And then let's just move over to the Indian start where you have Sehwag who gets out second ball LBW and then also reviews for some reason. And he did this in the semi final as well, where he got immediately reviewed. He didn't even look up at the partner. And in both occasions, he was wrong, like he was plumb. And he just reviewed. Sehwag out for a duck. And then you think, okay, Sachin is going to make amends for when getting this four in the 2003 final. It starts off pretty well, and then he gets out caught behind against Malinga and 30 foot, 31 foot two. Malinga was on fire, and you had Gambhir, and you had Kohli, who was, like I said, not the Kohli he is today, or maybe the Kohli he is today, not the Kohli he was in 2019.
Yeah.
And yeah, I thought, oh my, 240 to get. I was in my head thinking, okay, this is going to be a like late 90s kind of game where we get to 183 all out or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, it was quite a bad start with the bat. And just before I go on to the Indian innings, I mean, I think we must mention that of course on top of Mahela Jayawardene was brilliant, but there was also the finish from Thisara Pereira
Yeah,
where
six of
he
the last
took
ball.
where he took Zahir apart in his last over and got 20 runs or something. So Sri Lanka went into the innings break with all the momentum on their side. And I know the whole momentum thing sounds very kind of cliched, but I think it is true. I mean, uh, you just look at the spring in the step of the players as they go back for the innings break, and the Sri Lankans clearly felt that okay, 275 World Cup final. I think we've got quite a few runs here. And then, of course, India lose early wickets. Sehwag eats up a review for no reason. He was absolutely plumb. Sachin goes. And then Virat walks in. So Sachin was out, Virat walked in. And I've read this or I've heard this amazing piece from Harsha Bogle where he actually said, like, that was the moment of kind of, where the baton was transferred from the great of one generation to the great of to who would have to who basically went on to be the great of this generation. So he puts it really amazingly, Harsha Bogle, he does that.
Yeah.
And I think yes, that partnership between Kohli and Gambhir sort of stemmed what could have been a major collapse, and kind of brought India back into that game. And I think once that partnership was finished, Sri Lanka still had a slight chance, but then Dhoni came out, and that was the end of that for Sri Lanka.
Yeah, total master stroke by Dhoni, right? I mean, there's been so much written and spoken about that promoting himself ahead of Yuvraj to negate the left hand, left right combination. And but yeah, like that partnership was so important. It was 80 runs. Kohli actually scored 35 only, but like scored many more runs in his career. I think he unless he wins the next World Cup for India, that would for me at least rank as among his top five most important innings, at least. Maybe not his best, but just important innings. And then, yeah, Dhoni and Gambhir then just took the game away. And of course, we cannot forget Gambhir, right? Like, he didn't get his century, got out for 97 against stupid shot. But yeah, Dhoni got 91, Dhoni hit the winning six, everything. And then, but Gambhir has spoken about this himself. Every anniversary, he gets salty about this. He says, "Oh, no one remembers my 97. Only people only talk about the six."
Yeah, I mean, it's a fair comment. I mean, when you think of it, yeah, I mean, a lot of people don't remember that innings. But I think that innings was actually more crucial, I would think. At that stage, if Gambhir would have got out after Sachin, 3 wickets down with, I don't know, it was 60 odd on the board or 50 even. I mean, then you got Murli coming in, and it would have just made it very difficult for India. But I think Gambhir's innings at that stage was extremely crucial. It doesn't get the credit that it deserves, to be honest with you, because Dhoni being Dhoni was there till the end. So he had to be not out. He hit the six, etc. I mean, taking nothing away from Dhoni, his innings was brilliant as well. I mean, he came ahead of Yuvraj, played Murli, and negated the threat of Murli. But the innings from Gambhir for me was really the main innings for of India in that World Cup final, and actually allowed India to go on and win the match.
Yeah, and then the immortal six, which we've all heard, seen. Dhoni finished off in style. India win the World Cup after 28 years. Can't do it in any voice other than Ravi Shastri's voice. I mean, it was just perfect that he was around as well, just to call that moment, as he was for the 2007 World Cup. Maybe now that he's not the coach anymore, he can call the 23 World Cup as well. We'll see. But yeah, just I don't know. At that time, I was just couldn't believe it for a while. Even the next day when we saw I think they went to the Taj and took those pictures, Dhoni in front of the hotel and stuff, and it didn't sink in for a while, right? That we've actually won the World Cup. It was a big deal and still such a big deal. Even today, talking about it, gives you those goosebumps.
Yeah, I mean, it was a big deal. This is the pinnacle of cricket. Winning the World Cup is the most you can do, and these guys did it after 28 years. So it was a big deal, and they did it also by beating some good teams along the way. A lot of times, due to various reasons, maybe the draw, etc., etc. Some teams end up okay, not winning the World Cup, but coming really close to without beating the best teams. But I think that could not have been said of that Indian team, because they beat Australia, they beat Pakistan, they beat Sri Lanka, they drew with England. And the only game, like we said at the top, they lost was against South Africa. So I think all in all, it was an amazing World Cup and an amazing way to finish. I mean, here they didn't finish with a single or a double. They finished with a six, and I think that moment is immortalized in Indian cricket history and also in the minds of fans like us. But yeah, it truly was an amazing World Cup win, and yeah, maybe 2023 we could they might just repeat that. I don't know. It's in India, but we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. Let's not. Hopes are a bit low after what has happened for the past 10 years, but yeah, okay. Let's finish off with something. What is your moment of the tournament? And of course, the unanimous one would probably be Dhoni's six. But other than that, if you could choose one moment or one, I don't know, one performance or one thing that made you believe that we would win the World Cup.
Oh, that's a good question, because yeah, but I think the one that I think there would be probably two moments. One where it was actually the game against South Africa. We had this amazing opening stand between Sehwag and Sachin. And there is this one shot that Sachin plays off Morny Mokel, who's, as we know, tall guy, gets the ball to bounce, and he pulls him into the stadium for a six. And you've got fans going absolutely crazy. What a shot! And because at that point, Sachin's actually outscoring Sehwag by a mile. which usually it would be the other way around simply because of the style of play. But in that game, Sachin took the attack to South Africa before Sehwag did. And, this shot kind of epitomized all of that. The second moment would probably be Yuvraj hitting the winning runs against Australia. The extra cover drive goes for four, and then uh, India has actually beaten Australia for the first time. I think it was in a World Cup, and what a time to do it in the quarterfinals, knockout game, crucial game. World Cup on the line, and this happens. So that would be my second moment.
He looked like he was going to hit someone with that bat, the way he was waving it around. And then, yeah, my moment, other than the final, of course, is that in the semi-final where Pakistan were chasing, they had lost them way a bit with, I think, Misbah, and it was Yunus Khan and all those guys, and then they were four down. Then Umar Akmal came out and he was actually hitting a few sixes. He hit our spinners for three sixes, I think, and they were like 150 for four. And it was they needed 100 runs of 110 runs of I think 15, 16 overs or something, which was very doable. And then Harbhajan Singh, first ball of the newspaper, and he bowled him. And Dhoni, you could hear him from behind. Dhoni was normally very reserved. He actually yelled, and that was just the turning point of that match because Umar Akmal, we know how he's turned out, but at that time he was extremely dangerous, and they still had Razak and Afridi, so they could have finished that game easily. And so I think that was just the way he got out, the Dhoni's reaction, everything, the way that turned the match around, and of course, then we went to the final and won. But yeah, that moment I can watch it over and over.
Yeah, it was Umar Akmal was a good player those days. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Anyway, I think you can see by the smiles on our faces that we've actually enjoyed this episode. I hope everyone has enjoyed watching as well. We'll be back next week with something more. Maybe finally we'll cover the IPL next week, but
Yeah,
we'll see how things go. But thanks for watching and thanks for listening, and have a great week ahead.
yeah. Thanks for watching.